Hi there, students. Today I'm gonna walk you through how to make this little guy, a little laser holder. It's pretty simple to make, but there's a lot of literally moving parts here. I'm going to show you how to animate it as well as import different assemblies into your design. And I think it's a simple but pretty informative tutorial, and I hope you enjoy it. This is unscripted, obviously, and unrehearsed, obviously, so I hope that I don't make too many mistakes, and invariably I will. Just forgive me and let's move on. Yesterday in class we made these nylon spacers, and we're going to use those. And then I've given you access to my servo, high-tech servo, and to some high-tech servo horns, and to the diode laser board. So we're going to use these as well. So if you haven't already, go ahead and on the Canvas page, import these into your OnShape account. So to get going, log into OnShape and press the Create button, and we're going to create a document. I'm going to save this Servo laser board. Say OK. This is going to open up that document, and you can see here we have the three different faces here, top, front, and right. I prefer to work from the top, so I'm going to hide the front and I'm going to hide the right. Okay, and with my left mouse, and I would recommend pausing the video now, going to get a mouse and using the mouse to do CAD work is so much easier than the trackpad. But with the right mouse click, you can move things around. You could also do it over here with the dice. So top-down view. First thing I'm going to do is click on the hamburger and change workspace units to millimeters. Okay, just like we did yesterday. All right, and now I'm going to create a sketch here on the top plane. So the easiest way, I think, is to click on the plane that you want to create the sketch on, which is the top. And then I'm going to click the sketch button, which is going to create a sketch on the top plane. Pretty simple. Next, I'm going to draw a box here, not a box, but a little rectangle. And I'm going to choose the center point rectangle so that it can be centered here on this little center point. And I'm going to make it, just stretch it out to any size I want, hit enter, click the mouse button, and then you can see down here this box is already highlighted. So let's go with, say, 25 by 25. So you just hit 25, enter, 25, enter. If I were to click again, I would make another box. And if you do that, you can just do Command Z or Control Z to undo it. And then you can just toggle off that center point rectangle so you can do other things. For example, I can move these dimension tools around. Now, notice that if I just make a box, a rectangle, the lines are blue. Okay, and that's because I have not constrained the sides. And these dimensions here are just they're floating, and I can change these dimensions easily. I can just kind of grab the side and stretch and things like that. But this box, because we made it 25 by 25, I cannot do that. It is fixed. I cannot change it. I can change it with the numbers. So let's go ahead, and do that now. So if I'd make it 10, for example. Okay, I can change it by double-clicking on the dimension and then changing that. This is going to be really helpful as we proceed. So I don't want this box. I'm going to highlight it, make sure that there's no tool up here that's selected, and then just press the delete key on the keyboard. So that's done. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to put some holes here to mount the laser. I'm going to put 3 lasers on here. And we also need holes for the servo horn so that it can be mounted onto the high-tech servo. All right, so I'm going to save this sketch there. I'm going to go, let's take a really quick look at what the lasers look like. There it is. All right, so if we look at the assembly of the laser has the hole here, but it's offset a bit, okay? And so in order to get the laser beam in the center of the board, our hole is going to have to be offset from the center of our mounting board. And if we click on the Laser Part Studio here, and we can highlight these sketches which are hidden, you can sort of see which sketch creates what. So this sketch creates the laser board itself. So let's double click there. I'm going to click on the top view so I can see it really well. And we can see that I've added a constructor line. This is the center of the board, and the hole is 5.08 millimeters from the center line, and it's 2.54 millimeters from the edges here in the corner. 2.54 millimeters is 0.1 inches. Okay, so I'm going to jot down those numbers, 5.08 and 2.54. I'm going to remember those so that when we offset it a bit, this line here, the laser will be in the middle of our board. So just something to think about before you begin work. Okay, let's go back to our laser board. Okay, I'm going to double click the sketch again, and here we go. I want the lasers to shoot upwards like this. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to make a little line. It's not necessary to do this, but it's kind of handy. And I'm going to make it a construction line, okay, which means that it is just there to help me. Okay, so I'm just going to draw it there, and notice the little icon. See the icon? There's no icon now, and then if I click there, move my mouse there, it gives me that little slanted T. That tells me that my two lines are joining, they're coincident. And if I slide it over this way, you'll see another icon that tells me, hey, you're in the midpoint of that line segment, which is what we want, from midpoint to midpoint. Okay, I did it kind of quickly. Let me do it again. You can see that if I take my construction line and put it right there in the midpoint, then I'm going to grab that midpoint there and the midpoint there. I'm going to click, and it's going to think that I want to continue to draw. I could just press the escape button, which gets rid of that construction line. I'm going to do it again here and here. Okay, and I'm just going to draw a line. You know, I want it to be horizontal, so I don't want this. And if I draw it up, you'll see, boom, right there, there's a horizontal constrain icon. So boom, there. Okay, again, press escape to get rid of it. Now, I want this to be 2.54 millimeters above the bottom line, and I'm going to intentionally make mistakes here so you can see how we can fix them. Okay, so I'm going to press the dimension tool. I'm going to click on my horizontal construction line, and I'm going to drag down and click on the very bottom line of my box, and that's going to tell me that, hey, I can now dimension that distance, and we want it to be 2.54. Okay, and now all of my little laser hole circles can go on this line. All right, and this may or may not work, but we're just starting from there. Okay, next we need to add a little hole. Okay, so this is going to be the hole that we're going to put the middle laser on, and if we put the hole right here in the very center, that would be fine, but then the laser itself would be offset and the middle laser would not be in the center of the board. So I'm going to offset the hole, and I'm just going to make a hole, you know, something like that. Now this happens to be 3.64, but it was just arbitrary. I want this to be a tapped hole. Okay, I want to be able to take a 440 screw and screw it into this piece of wood, so I won't need a nut or anything like that to hold it in place. And I know from trial and experience that the tapped hole needs to be 2 millimeters wide. So I'm just going to type 2 and hit enter, and there we go. So that's a 2 millimeter wide hole. Notice it's blue, which means it could be moved anywhere. And let's do that now. I'm going to press the dimension tool here. I'm going to choose the distance between here and the center of my little circle there. Okay, you can see how the little arrows show up there, and if you recall, it's 5.08, and then boom. So now if we put a hole here, put the laser on inside this hole, or attach it to this hole rather, then the laser beam would be right there along the center. So we now know that the center laser is going to be aligned in the middle, which is great. So let's grab another hole and let's put it over here. Okay, and this is also 2 millimeters because we want that to be a tapped hole. And let's make a third hole on the right hand side over here. Okay, so 2, boom. So these are 3 holes that we can tap once it gets laser cut. So let's see here. How wide should we make this? So I'm going to save that sketch, go back to OnShape, scroll down to my laser board, and let's take a look at that sketch. Okay, so the board itself is about 15 millimeters across and about 24 millimeters high, give or take. Okay, 15 and 24. So let's go back to our laser board. To get back in, we have to double click into the sketch, and now we can edit it. Let's just dimension this guy. Let's move the distance between these two circles here. Let's move it to 18 millimeters. Okay, because each laser board is about 15 or so millimeters wide, and so if we give it a little wiggle room, 3 millimeters or so of wiggle, that would be good. And obviously our board is not going to be big enough. That's okay. And then if I do the same, I've got the dimension tool already selected. So if I click on the center there and the center there, okay, and again make this be 18. Now they'll be stretched appropriately. Now what we can do is we can redimension this outside box by simply double-clicking here, and now we can just kind of trial and error it. Do we want this to be 50? Okay, that may actually work out pretty well. So this is a little close to the edge. We're going to see if that works, and if not, we can always come back and change it right here. And this looks like that looks good enough to to move on. So let's just continue. Okay, I think that's all I want to do for right now with this sketch. So we say okay. All right, and now it's just a plane. It's not a physical device because it's just infinitely thin. So what we have to do is we have to extrude it. So the wood we're using is about 5.3 millimeters thick. Okay, so I'm going to click on the plane that we're working on. I'm going to extrude. Okay, and I'm going to type 5.3. Okay, and now that's our board. I'm going to rename the part like we did yesterday. I'm going to maybe call it something like that. And because it's wood colored, let's edit the appearance, and I'm going to make it kind of be brownish. Okay, press the checkbox to go with that. You can make it any color you want, though. All right, so let's see. So we could cut this. We could literally 3D print this right now, or we can send it to the laser cutter. But I think it's useful to spend a little bit more time with the assembly just to make sure that everything is going to work before we spend time and material and effort to actually make the thing. Okay, so let's continue with that. So let's click on the assembly, and this is where we're gonna build the thing, with Servo, with the board and the lasers and the nylon standoffs and the horns, and everything's going to go into the assembly. This part studio is where you create the parts, and the assembly is where, well, you assemble them. Okay, so let's do that now. Making assemblies is one of my favorite things to do in OnShape, so if you haven't done so, click on the Assembly tab, and then let's go to Insert. It defaults to the current document, and we need to put the laser mount board, the thing we just created, in here. So you click and click on the board, and then you can place that board, multiple boards if you wanted to, in the workspace. Okay. Now let's add our nylon spacers. We need 3 little nylon spacers to go there and there and there. Okay. So we click on Other Documents and Created by Me. This would be your nylon spacers, and these are the ones we made last time. Now, you might get something like this that says there's been a whole bunch of versions since the last time you made it. Just press the Create a Version button, and that will create a version of your nylon spacers. Press Create, and give it a second to kind of populate, and there it is. So let's use the 1/4-inch nylon spacer to really get some heft there. So we're going to put one, and then we need another one, and then we need another one. Don't bother trying to put it where it needs to go. Just put it over here, hang it out in space. Let's be done with that for just right now. Let me show you how you can create a version before you start to import things, and that's just this little guy here. You can press this button here to create a version of, for example, the Servo laser board. So you create this version, and then you can create version 2, 3, 4, 5 as you move on. You can always go back to old versions in the history, of the version history there. Okay, so what we want to do now is we want to place the this little spacer over the holes here and here and here. And the first time I did it, the first time I was trying to do this, I had this window up. I didn't close the window. I had the insert window open. And I come over here and I'm just trying like the devil to move it. And it just doesn't work like it should. So I close that. And now watch what happens. When you click on it, you get this nice little set of axis tools. Okay. And this you can rotate your piece around, you can spin it, you can move it really easily. Okay, so avoid doing it by hand. I can grab these little arrows and slide it up, down, left, and right. You can grab the little square and try to move it and try to eyeball it, but it looks like that's maybe on there, but you'll see here it's way off, right? So there's a much easier way to attach these things, and that's up here with these mates, these different types of mates. And this one we're going to use is just a fasten mate. We just want this. Oops, I should have left it alone. We want the bottom of the hole. Golly gee, that is way up there. Okay. Okay, we want that little hole there, the bottom of that hole there, that inner diameter hole, to mate with that hole there. So I'm going to just click on that, and it's looking for mate connectors. So I'm going to scroll over here, and I'm just going to use my mouse and just kind of highlight that circle. And when it does, you get the red, green, and blue axis little guy there. And when you get that, just click. So that's one of the mate connectors. And now we got to go find the second mate connector, which is the bottom here. So I'm going to click on this one, and then like magic, it mates. For some reason, this green checkbox doesn't always work for me, so I always check this whenever I'm done. Boom. Okay, and now that little guy has now been mated to that. And you can see already that our board is not big enough, right? I intentionally made it a little too small because that doesn't look great. The standoff is hanging over the edge. So we'll fix that in a minute. And let's go ahead and mate the other two nylon spacers. And let's see how they go. Okay. Now you can see that every time I do this, my board is moving around. And it's kind of, now it's moved to the inside of that guy. So what I should have done whenever I started is I should have right-clicked on the board and just clicked on Fix. Okay, and that's going to fix that board in that location. And now that wooden board won't ever move again. So I'm going to click one more time. Again, it's important not to choose the outer. Actually, it really doesn't matter, but in this case, but I want the inner hole to match with that hole. Okay, click OK. And we can see right away that again, the spacers are hanging out over the edge. So let's go fix that. Easy to do. We go back over to the Part Studio. We have to get into our sketch because that's where all of our dimensions are. I'm going to do a top-down view so it's easy for me to see. Okay, and let's make this be 30. Okay, and let's make this be 55. And maybe that would work. Okay, so that stretches it a little bit just to make it look pretty there. Okay, so now we click OK. The board has been moved, and look, the assembly will automatically be adjusted. Okay, so it looks like that the left edge is fine now, but the bottom edge did not work so well. So let's go back and see what we did. Whenever I made this be 30, look what happens. I could make it be 50 for all, if we wanted to. But notice that line there is still 2.54. I'm going to put it back to 30. That line there is still 2.54 millimeters away from the bottom edge. Okay, so let's change that. I'm just going to double click. See that little guy there? I'm going to double click that constraint and make it be, I don't know, let's double it. Let's make it be 5. Okay, and notice because everything was constrained to that line, these circles were built relative to that line. Everything gets shifted up. We press the checkbox, okay. Go back to the assembly, and now that looks pretty good, okay. Pretty nifty. And notice that the holes, let's double check that the holes actually do line up, and they do there, pretty nice, okay. And I think we can move on. Let's now add the lasers, okay. So we go to Insert. You can go back to the home screen if you needed to. You can use these arrows to go back and forth. So let's put in now the diode laser board. Okay, and I want the assembly. I don't want these parts. I want to use the diode laser assembly. Okay, and I need 3 of them. 1, 2, and 3. Again, press the checkbox when you're done. All right. And for whatever reason, these things, I don't know why I built them at this angle, but that's okay. We can fix it. We want these lasers to be pointing upwards. So I'm going to just click here, and I'm going to choose this little tool here, and I'm going to rotate until it's exactly flat like that. And notice that it's 110 degrees. Okay. And now what I can do is do the same here. And I could, if I wanted to, just type in 110 and hit enter. And it goes to 110, or I can do the fun thing, and I can rotate it until it matches. All right, so now we have our 3 lasers, and these little laser beams I just added for effect for some other project I was working on. We can turn those off. We can hide them, if you will. So over here is the assembly, and if you hover, you can see that this laser over here gets highlighted, and this one gets highlighted, and then this one does. You can explode that view, click on the laser beam, and turn off the eyeball and hide that laser beam and hide this laser beam and this one, if that annoys you, like it does me. Okay, and there we go. So now we're going to use the fasten mate once again to connect the top now of the standoff of the little spacer to the bottom of our first laser. So boom, like that. Now it looks like it's broken. It looks like the laser has been broken, but it only moves some of the geometry to keep it nice and easy. And then you just press the checkbox and everything should move over. There it is. Okay. All right. And then let's do the same. We're going to fasten this one. And we'll do the same. And it doesn't really matter for this mate which one you do first or second, because we're just fastening. Okay, and that looks all right. I don't know if that's perfectly centered in the board, but it's, you know, good enough for government work. Okay, if we wanted to, we could come back to the Part Studio, click on the first sketch, and we can change these dimensions. Maybe we don't want it 18 millimeters. Maybe we want it, you know, 16 millimeters apart. Make it a little closer. Oh, I didn't press enter, sorry. And then we can go back and look at the assembly. I don't notice much change there. Oh, you have to press the checkbox here. You have to load in that check. So now you can see here that that's really close, and maybe that's what you want, and maybe that's not what you want. So we go back to it. 18. Again, don't forget to press the checkbox. Click on the assembly, and it's gone back to the original distance there. All right, so we're ready to move along, but let me show you. So if you really want it, so I would be fine with this. I would be, you know, this is going to work. I like this board. I could actually go and print it now, and it would work, or cut it out now, and it would work fine, I think. But let me show you some other cool things you can do. We can actually put some screws in here. So let me show you how to do that now. We're going to click on Insert, Standard Content, and then we choose A and SI, bolts and screws, socket head screws down here, This is what we use in our lab. And then we're going to choose a 440. Okay, and then we can just kind of guess what the length should be, maybe 1/2 inch. And the thread length is also 1/2 inch. We want these to be all threaded. So then you press Insert. It takes a while to generate, and then you can just click. Let's just try one for right now. So I'm going to press the checkbox there. Okay, so that looks like it may work. Let's see. If we click on the Fasten Mate, okay, now I'm going to scroll way in here, and I'm going to choose this circle. Although if you chose that one, it'll be okay too. There's not much difference. So I'm going to click on the topmost inner circle, and then I'm going to pick a hole right here to fasten it. So now let's take a look at how that looks. So I click OK. And it doesn't come all the way through, which actually may be all right. Maybe we want it to come all the way through, and we can edit that pretty easily. Let's see here. Here's the socket head, and if you right-click on that, you can edit the standard content instance. So that opens up the instance of that particular screw, and we can choose the next size down, or maybe 6.25. Let's see. Let's update it. Now you can see it really sticks out the bottom. So maybe that's not what we want. Yep. Update that. Okay. I'm going to let it stick out just to show you, because when we put the horn on, you're going to see that there's some mistakes there. I just want to kind of just have it protrude. So I'm going to use a 6.25 or 5.625, sorry. So we've updated. We're going to check OK. And now we're going to insert the same. So insert standard content, and it remembered our last one, so we're going to do it one more time. Click, and one more time. Click. Use the Fasten Mate. So that's one. Use the Fasten Mate again. You have to kind of move around to see it. Oh, it looks like I didn't click on the hole properly there. So OK. And there it is. Now, you see those little red, green, and blue axis markers? They kind of annoy me. It took a long time for me to figure out how to get rid of those. It's pretty simple. Just press the K key on the keyboard, and it goes away. If you want them to come back, you can press the K and see all of the axes. You can toggle those on and off with the K command, or the K button. All right, so there we go. And we're moving right along. So the next thing to do is to put the horn on. So let's take a look at which horn we want to use, which servo. And we're kind of running out of the red ones in the lab. We have a bunch of these little guys here. So this is the horn we're going to use. So let's go back to our servo laser board. And let's insert now a horn. So let's go to Other Documents, Created by Me. You would be creating, shared with me, I think is what you might have to do. You'll have to find the servo horns that I sent you. So the high-tech horn, I don't want to go to assemblies because that's going to put all of these in. If I go to the Part Studio, I just want to do the circle horn. Click and drag there. We want to flip this, so I'm going to click on it, and I'm going to choose this to flip around 180 degrees so it would sit flat, okay, on our board. But there are no holes here, okay? So I could try to line it up, but again, there are no holes in our board, and what we need now through holes in our board so that they can go into the horn here, and these are tapped holes. So we now need through holes in our board and not tapped holes. So what do? You go back to OnShape. We're going to go back to the high-tech horn. I'm going to click on the part, and the sketch number 1 is where I've got all of these basic dimensions drawn. Okay, and this little guy here is what I want. So I'm going to simply just highlight it, and I'm going to copy it. So Command C, Control C. Okay. So I've copied that geometry. I'm now going to come back over to my board. All right. And I want to be able to put that geometry now on the bottom of my board here. Okay. So I need to make a new sketch. And where do I want that sketch? I want that sketch to be here on the bottom of the board. I need to go to Part Studio. So this is the top of the board. I need to scroll down to the bottom of the board. In fact, I can just click there. I want this to be the face that I draw my new sketch on. So I'm going to click on the bottom of the board and enter the sketch mode. And now that new sketch is going to be on that plane. And if you recall, we just copied that geometry from the circle horn. I'm just going to now paste it. Command V. I can move it around with this little guy here. Okay. And I could try to line it up. It's not going to line up perfectly in the center. Well, actually it did. Made a liar out of me. Okay. But you can see that that circle is going to be in the way there. So we can fix that later on. I'll show you how we're going to fix that. Okay, so I'm going to press OK there. So let's move to the center. And this hole and this hole are going to be pretty close together. This axis is a little bit small, a little bit longer rather than this axis. So what I want to do is I want to turn this. I'm going to highlight everything on this plane. I'm going to choose the transform button. And I want to rotate this. And it's choosing for me this bottom little point there. So if I click here, it's going to spin about that point, which is not what I want to do. So I'm going to undo that. I'm going to highlight it again, press the transform button, and now what I want to do is I want to take this little tiny circle, that little one right there, that one right there. I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to move that little circle. Oops. You have to hold your lips just right. I'm going to move that circle, which is going to allow me to put my point of origin there. And now when I click on this, it will rotate 90 degrees. And now I have a little bit more space between these two holes, which is going to work out better. The circle is still going to be under my the screw hole there, but we'll be fine. We can move that in a minute. I don't need this circle here. That's just a nice little reference. So I'm going to get rid of it. Okay. And these were copied straight from the circle horn. And these distances, these holes diameters are 0.2 because these are tapped holes. But in our piece of wood, we want it to be through holes. And so I'm going to use 2.9 as my through hole length. So I'm just going to change each of these to 2.9. Or you can make it 3 or maybe even 2.8. Those are just trial and error measurements of a through hole. And we want this also to be a through hole. It's 3. You can leave it as 3 or you can change it to 2.9. This is the through hole that's going to be a screw that goes down into the servo motor itself. Okay, so we're done with that. So now what we're going to do is we're going to extrude these holes. So I'm going to click on each of the 5 holes, highlight each one, okay, and I'm going to extrude it. So watch what happens. Uh-oh. So for some reason it did not highlight all the holes. Let me do that again. And you can see it keeps track. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 holes. So now if I extrude, what the heck is going on here? Why is it not clicking on those? Okay, I'm just going to do them manually there. Okay, so there are my 5 holes, and they're extruded upwards, which of course we don't want. Those aren't really holes. Those are broads. So I'm going to press remove. Okay, and then we can see we got little shadows down there, and I'm going to change the type of remove to through all. Boop. And so now it's just simply holes that go through all. We press OK, and we're looking pretty good. So these are going to be through holes for us. Let's take a look at the assembly now. The holes are automatically done. What we want to do is we're going to fix this little guy onto here, but don't forget that we've rotated the hole. So these are the small axis and this is the small axis. So let's just go ahead and rotate that guy 90 degrees, like so. And now let's mate. I'm going to mate the center hole here with the center hole here. Press OK. And now all of our holes should align, and they do. Okay, and let's take a look on the other side, and you should see right there that we have a through hole in the top and we have a tapped hole in the bottom, which is exactly what we want. And as we predicted, this plastic piece there is going to run into this little guy, and that's going to be a problem. So easy to fix. All we have to do really is just to make our board just a tiny bit bigger. Let's see if that works. Lots of ways to fix this, by the way. So we go back to sketch number 1. Let's make it be maybe 35. Let's see if that works. Go back to our assembly. Okay, so it does work, but boy, that is a really tight tolerance there. We probably would not like that if we were real engineers, so let's fix it. Let's just make it be another millimeter. 36, and let's see what that does for us. Oh, yeah, that's much better. Okay, so that looks pretty good. Let's jazz up our board just a tiny bit. Let's make it look a little smoother. Sharp edges are fine, but curved edges are a little bit neater. So let's go back to our sketch number 1. And now we're going to use this little guy here, the fillet. Okay, and it's going to just add rounded edges, rounded corners. So you press that button, you click one edge, you click another edge. It gives you a radius of 5 millimeters. You can make that be bigger or smaller if you wanted to, but I kind of like the way 5 looked. So I'm just going to click 5. And there it is. So I like that. I like that. Click there, and I'm just highlighting the 2 corners as we go around. All right, let's see if that looks good. Oh yeah, that looks clean, doesn't it? Looks nice. It's not going to catch on anything. It's going to be nice and smooth for your robot. All right, very cool. All we have to do now is let's add the servo motor to that. Insert, other documents, servo. And I am going to choose the assembly, the high-tech servo assembly. Boom. I'm going to rotate this 90 degrees or so. Okay. Now, I could fasten it. I could use the fasten mate and just stick these together. But there's another mate I want to show you. It's the cylindrical mate. Okay, so I'm going to just hover over this for a while, and it says it allows the translation and rotation about the z-axis. The first thing that you click on the mate is the translational rotational point. The second piece you're going to click on is the stationary point. So I want the servo to be stationary, and I want the top plate to be the thing that rotates. So the first thing we want to click on then is the top plate. So I'm going to choose that, and it's looking for my mate connectors. Okay, so I want to come in here and choose that middle hole. That's my first one. That's the rotational one. And then I'm going to choose that guy there. Okay. Then we press OK. And it looks like it's just a fasten mate, but look what we can do with this. We can come down here to cylindrical, double click it. We can choose the limits. Okay. Now, if we were to play this, watch what happens when we play. We can animate this. We're going to play it. You can see that that guy is going to screw up and down like a screw. So let's set the Z, which is the up and down axis. Let's set that to be 0, and let's set the Z maximum to be 0. Okay, and now if we play it, it just simply is going to rotate back and forth. Okay, and let's let the Z minimum be negative 90 degrees and the Z max to be positive 90. And that's because the high-tech servo is unmodified and it only rotates 180 or so. So now we press the OK. And we can come down here and animate. Okay, we're going to choose which degree we want to move. We want to move this one here, the rotational one. Okay, I'm going to choose this to be 50 steps. And let's play it and let's see that this thing is the thing that's rotating. There are a couple of reasons for that. Okay, so I'm going to stop it. We told it this is the stationary one, but we also told it that this mount here, this guy here is fixed. Remember we did that? So I'm going to right-click on that. I'm going to unfix that. Okay, so let's go back down and take a look at our cylindrical mate again. Sorry, right-click on it, animate. Choose that guy. Let's just see what this does now. There we go. So we can speed it up by making it take 50 steps at a time. How about that? Isn't that neat? Okay, and if we want to, we can put the lasers back in, or not. Up to you. All right. Well, that is it. I hope this was instructive, and I think we went through several, I think, important pieces of OnShape for such a simple design. I thought that we had some complexity that hopefully taught you some things and entertained you as well.